Hi there, welcome to this new video. This is a follow-up from the previous video that I did where we looked at the Titans in the game. So we looked at the guys from the Rise of the Titans expansion, including any monsters or anyone else who was there. We looked at Prometheus, who, although he's a monster in the game, he was a Titan. We looked at Helios, again a Titan. And we looked at Hecate, who is, in my opinion, a Titan. Her parents were Titans and she preceded the Olympian gods. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Titan. Okay, so if we're going to talk about Olympian gods and kind of where Zeus came from and who he was and who his brothers and sisters were and all that kind of stuff, we need to again take a step back. So in the previous video, we looked at the relationships of Gaia, Kronos, and Kronos' father, Uranos, who was also Gaia's son, in a weird kind of way. But anyway, what happened was, basically, Uranos had treated Gaia's children badly, the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, and he cast them down into the underworld. He'd done wrong by them, and as a result, she got Kronos to overthrow his own father. Now, at the time when that happened, Kronos was warned by Uranos, the same fate that befalls me will befall you in the future. And so what happened was, Kronos continued his life fearful of what the future held for him. He worried about how his children might overthrow him and what he could do to stop that from happening. So later, Kronos gets himself a wife, Rhea. And Kronos and Rhea have a whole bunch of kids together. They have 6 children. However, in his fear of being overthrown, Kronos does something quite horrific to sort that out. So his first daughter, who was called Hestia, who isn't in the game, at the moment she was born, Kronos gobbled her up, swallowed her whole. She did the same to her first sister, Hera, her second sister, Demeter, who isn't in the game. She did it to Poseidon, and then he did it to Hades. Now Rhea, she didn't want her kids being eaten up by Kronos. So her last child, her youngest child, Zeus, she hid the baby, and she wrapped a metallic stone. She wrapped it up and she offered it to Kronos, who consumed it immediately, thinking it was his youngest son. So Rhea whisked Zeus away, and he grew up to be a man. And eventually she brought him back to Kronos, and he overthrew Kronos. And part of that was he gave Kronos a potion that made him sick. The first thing that Kronos puked up was this metallic stone which flew across the ocean, and that was the Omphalos stone, or the Omphalos stone. Then he sicked up Hades, then Poseidon, then Demeter, then Hera, and then Hestia. And after that, the Titanomachy ensued, and then we carried on back to here. So we're back to this timeline now. So we get back to this. So who are these guys? Zeus is the god of sky and thunder, son of Rhea and Kronos, consort to Hera and a million others. Hades, god of the underworld, son of Kronos and Rhea, consort of Persephone, who we'll look at later on. Poseidon, god of the sea, earthquakes, and randomly horses. And he was a consort of Aphrodite, who was another sea god who doesn't appear in the game. And then again, got Hera. So she's the goddess of women and marriage, daughter of Kronos and Rhea, consort of Zeus. So these were the first Olympian gods. They created Olympus and they resided there first before anyone else. So let's get rid of a few of these guys. We'll concentrate on the miniatures from the game. Zeus and Hera had a couple of bouncing babies. The first bouncing baby was Ares, who was an angry kid, hell of an angry, so angry that they made him god of war. And they had another kid called Hephaestus, who was so ugly, the moment he was born, Hera booted him off Mount Olympus. So he kicked him straight off and he bounced every rock on his way down, broke his leg, damaged forever. So she thought he was gone, and that was done. So the relationship between these guys is such. Ares falls in love with Aphrodite. Zeus and Hera already set to be married. So when these guys set a date for the wedding, they received a really random gift. A beautiful throne that had been sent. Golden throne for Hera to sit on. It was amazing. A real kind of work of art. Hera absolutely loved it. And when she sat on it, it immediately closed up around her and locked her into the chair. She was absolutely furious. Now everyone tried to get her out, but no one could do it. Eventually Zeus said, whoever can unlock this chair and get his missus out will be offered the hand of Aphrodite in marriage. So, of course, who steps up immediately? I'm going to sort this out. I'll get Hera out in a jiffy. Ares. Did it work out? Not for a second. He couldn't get her out. There was something about this chair and the way it was made. It just couldn't be done. And then finally, out of nowhere, who rocks up but Hephaestus? He asks if he can have a go. Hera's absolutely shocked. She thought her son was gone forever when she booted him out of Mount Olympus. Even Zeus was shocked, but he was actually quite proud of his son for coming back. And of course, he unlocks that chair immediately. It's done and dusted in seconds, and out Hera is freed. So, what does that mean? It means the lovers Aphrodite and Ares are separated, and Aphrodite is married to Hephaestus. But she was forever a lover of Ares and many, many others. So that's their little relationship discussed and out the way. Next up, we've got Athena. So Athena is the daughter of Zeus and a titan called Metis. And how her birth came about was that Zeus, on his own wedding night, was chasing after a bit of skirt. And he chased after a titan Metis, and they made love a few times, blah blah blah. And eventually Metis said to Zeus, I can turn into a form that you cannot catch me from. They'd been doing this as part of their foreplay, turning at different animals and chasing each other around and that kind of stuff. He says, I can escape from you, hands down, no problem, I can do it, and I'll be gone. So she turned herself into a fly. Zeus immediately turned himself into a lizard and ate Metis. Ate her up straight away. Now, thinking that was the end of that, see you later Metis, he was wrong. Metis travelled up Zeus's body and into his head and got to work and forged a living being, Athena. Now Zeus had a terrible headache For weeks and weeks it went on and on and on, until eventually our good friend Hephaestus forged an enormous axe, which he handed to Prometheus, who very gently got Zeus to calm down, put his head forward, and he smashed Zeus's head in two. Smashed it completely in two. And then who came out in full armour and full regalia? Athena. Interestingly, I don't actually think that's Medusa on there. I think it's another Gorgon. But yeah, so that's where Athena came from. Okay, so who are we going to look at next? Let's have a little look at Apollo and Artemis. So they're twins, brother and sister. Apollo, among many other things, god of music, truth, prophecy, healing, sun, light, plague and poetry. He and his sister are the son of Zeus and a titan called Leto. Didn't have many, well, he had many different women that he slept with, but mainly there was a nymph called Daphne that caught his eye quite a lot. And then his sister Artemis, she was the goddess of the wildlands and animals. So again, daughter of Zeus and Leto, and she was actually completely and utterly sexless. So she didn't have any husband or wife, or she didn't make love to anyone at all. Never, ever, ever. Completely celibate. So that's her. Interestingly, she had a silver bow with silver arrows, and Apollo a golden bow with golden arrows. Apollo looked after riding the chariot of the sun. He'd ride it for 12 hours a day. Eventually, due to a pretty bad accident involving his son, which caused his death, he passed that reins back on Helios, the Titan, and he looked after that till this day. Next up, let's have a little look at Hermes. So he was a messenger god. He was the son of Zeus and Pleiadmia, so she was the daughter of Atlas and a sea nymph. Yes, he was typical of the gods, so he had lots and lots of women on the go, including Aphrodite and Hecate, the Titan. But yeah, so one of his major jobs was that anyone from the race of men of note that died in battle or had a suitable history, he was collected at death by Hermes and brought by him personally to the underworld. Okay, so we've only got a few left. I think we'll look at Pan first. So not actually a great deal known about Pan, but he was, we know, the god of the wild, and I think mountains as well. But yeah, rustic music, shepherds, flocks. Again, god of lots of different things. He was son of Hermes and potentially Driope and Aphrodite or Penelope. Now, I think that him being the son of Penelope is the most interesting idea. Penelope was the wife of Odysseus, and so Odysseus, at the end of the Trojan War, it took him an incredible amount of time to get back, and he went on different kind of adventures, all of which are in Homer's The Odyssey. It took him years and years and years, and it's said that 108 suitors went to Odysseus' wife Penelope and tried to get her hand in marriage so as they could then be king. For the most part, we're told that she fought off the advances of the 108 suitors and kept her honour until Odysseus got back. But the version I like is that she slept with every one of them. She slept with all 108, and the offspring from that was Pan. So that's the history I like anyway. So the last thing we're going to talk about here is the relationship between Persephone and Hades. So Persephone, she was the daughter of Demeter, and she was eventually became the god of the goddess of basically the seasons. So prior to what happened to her, it was ceaseless sunshine throughout the world all the time, until eventually her loveliness was noticed by Hades, and probably not noticed much before, because he spent almost all of his time in the underworld. So he shunned what was going on in Mount Olympus, because when all the roles and responsibilities for godhood were being passed out, he secretly wanted the sea, but it was passed on, or it was won by his brother Poseidon when Zeus cast lots for it. So he got the underworld, but basically he came up, he saw Persephone, instantly fell in love, grabbed her and whisked her straight down into the underworld, where forever people tried to find her and get her back, and it took such a long time for them to find out where she was, that when Zeus said, she's got to come back, you've got to let her back out, Hades gave her 6 pomegranate seeds to eat. And the policy, or one of the policies in the underworld, was that if you ate any food of the underworld, you were destined to return. It didn't matter if you were a god, goddess, titan, whatever. If you ate any food from the underworld, you are destined to go back. And that's what happened. 6 pomegranate seeds got translated into 6 months. And that's the time that Persephone would spend in the underworld and then back in the world of men. And what that did, it changed from ceaseless sunshine to the seasons. So if you can imagine that she disappears down to the underworld, and all the summer is switched off immediately, and that gives rise to then the autumn or the fall, and then winter, and then 6 months later she comes back, brings on spring and then summer. So they get 6 months of that, and then she goes back down again, and that cycle continues forever. And so yeah, goddess of the seasons. And that's it. I think that's everyone taken care of from the game, at least. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be making more, so the next one I think I'm going to do will be the monsters, because it's the most straightforward between the monsters and the heroes. So I'm going to do that one next. That should be interesting. And again, Echidna and Typhon, who are the parents of many of the gods, monsters, talk about where they came from, who their parents were. A really interesting character there is Ketos or Ketos, who's one of the crossovers from the Conan game. That is one of the grandfathers to all of the monsters in Greek mythology. But we'll go through that at a later date. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I shall catch up with you soon.